Welcome everyone to a early morning stream for me because I live in Australia, but this is just a good conversation about my conversation with TJump. So today I'll be discussing with a philosophy student about some things I could have done better, where I might have been wrong, where TJump may have been wrong according to this philosophy student. But first, before we jump into that, I'm going to let everyone know that if you do want to listen to the conversation, you can go over to youtube.com/deepdrinks and you can see the whole conversation there. And you can see at the bottom there that we have a little subscriber thing. So when we get to 1,000 subscribers, I will be doing a charity stream, and that charity stream will be to raise money for a charity. And I'm going to be doing 6 hours on something. I don't know what we're going to be doing, but it's going to be fun. So if you do want to support the cause, go over to youtube.com/deepdrinks and hit subscribe. And also, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have Deep Drinks as an actual podcast that you can listen to now. If you just go, links in the description, you can listen to the podcast on the way to work. It's on iTunes, Spotify. It's on all the podcasting apps. So you can just search Deep Drinks and listen to it there if listening is more of your jam. But with that said, let's jump. Let's bring in Parquet, a friend of mine from Discord, who we have great conversations. And so let's jump into it. And we're going to start talking about the stream we did with TJump. So, hey, Parquet, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Great to hear. So you had a chance to check out the interview I did with TJump, and I was wondering to know what your thoughts were.
Well,
actually, maybe it's probably best if you first introduce yourself. Like, who are you and what are you studying? That's probably a good idea.
So my name is Parquet. I'm a fourth-year undergraduate student, soon to be master's student. And I study philosophy. My primary interests are ethics, both meta-ethics and practical ethics, and sort of normative ethics and stuff like that. I like epistemology decently and language stuff as well. But yeah, and I'm very interested in moral realism, and I think morals are objective, and I like talking about that.
Cool. And see, we disagree because I think morals are subjective.
Mm-hmm.
But I take it you also don't agree with TJump's theory of morals, right?
I do not.
Okay.
He seems to be a sort of reductive naturalist. I'm not super sympathetic to that. And the basic reason, I guess, is I don't think his view of wrongness and how he grounds wrongness is actually going to capture all the things that I believe to be wrong. Like the whole involuntary imposition of will thing seems a little too reductive. Like maybe we can say that's one of the things that are wrong, but I'm not even sure if it's always wrong or whatever. So I read on a couple cases that I thought were wrongness, but not necessarily involuntary imposition of will.
Yeah, maybe so that's a good place to start. But maybe just for people who haven't seen the podcast, how can you steelman his position of what morality is?
Yeah, I believe he believes morality to essentially be, or actually, he didn't really get into like goodness or like obligations or other normative concepts like justification. So what I got is he believes wrongness is essentially the same thing as involuntary impositions of will. So just like how water is H2O, wrong actions are involuntary impositions of will, and that's just what it is. It's just a natural fact. That natural fact, which is involuntary imposition of will, that's what wrongness is. That's the whole concept of wrongness. And I'm not sure about that. I think there's some things that constitute wrongful actions that don't seem to be involuntary impositions of will, such as I assume he would have had to have thought about this. He's got a book, so maybe he talks about it there. But like, cheating on your partner. That's something that definitely seems wrong, but I'm not exactly sure how it's an involuntary imposition of will. Likewise, something like being a peeping Tom, right? Like me spying on my neighbor as they like shower or whatever unsuspectingly. I think you're gonna have to make some, like I'm not sure how he's cashing out this
Mm.
imposition of
Could
will. Like, would me being a peeping Tom be an imposition of will, or
couldn't someone? I'm trying to now play devil's advocate for TJump. So because I'm still trying to understand his moral system. So like this is just a big like this stream or whatever, because I don't subscribe to it, but I'm still just trying to understand it. Wouldn't he say that, someone who has someone who's like getting, perved on when they don't want to, or the idea they don't want to, wouldn't that be the imposition of will there? Or wouldn't that be the imposition of will because something's happening to them that they don't want?
yeah, I guess to them, I guess being watched. Yeah, I guess you could say that would be an imposition of will. Yeah, I guess that one seems to work out more. But here's another one. Not showing gratitude to someone who has done something exceptional or extraordinary to you, right? Like say someone like saves my life and like
Yeah,
they pull me out of the lake I'm drowning in. I'm like, fuck yourself, and I walk away. It's like, I feel
yeah,
like you did something wrong there, but I didn't really impose my will in any way.
yeah. Well, you see, this is where it gets tricky with language, right? Because because that's like breaking a social norm or an expectation. Is like an expectation that's not met. Is that breaking someone's imposition of will? Like, is that an imposition of will?
If that is, then I feel like we're kind of stretching this whole imposition of will thing.
Yeah, that's yeah. Maybe
Like,
there's a way to make it work. If TJump, if you are listening, by chance you want to jump in. But yeah, it's interesting because I don't know how the words feel a little bit squishy to me. They feel a little bit not as tangible, and that might just be the fault of myself for not actually asking TJump enough questions. But yeah, so yeah.
yeah, I'd be interested to see how he's actually cashing out this involuntary imposition of will, because I think when he did sort of explain it a little bit, it wasn't like it didn't seem like as in detail enough to be able to account for cases such as just violating a social norm, cheating on your partner, say refusing to give to charity as like a rich person. Like for me, I think it's probably an obligation if you have billions of dollars to at least donate some of that to a charity, right?
So that wouldn't be amoral to you. That would be like a moral obligation, like not a virtue, but an obligation.
Yeah, I'm a little I think I'm a little more hard on the obligations than most are. A lot of people would say that's like supererogatory, right? It's like you're not obligated to do it, but I don't know. I feel like you kind of are, absent of competing reasons, right? Like, and competing reasons could be something like, oh, I really need the money for my mom's, healthcare or something. It's like, well, yeah, that's a competing reason. But if there's no competing reasons, then I think you're going to be obligated to donate money, right? Like me right now, I donate what I can, but I got to stay alive and everything, and also enjoy my life. But at some point, you could enjoy your life perfectly fine, minus $100 to animal charity evaluators every month, right?
Yeah.
Plug
Have
for
you
that
read
charity.
Steven Pinker's Life You Can Save?
I've not. No.
Yeah. Is it? Do you know about it?
Is it like an effective altruism thing?
I think so. The argument, Cosmic Skeptic goes over it a lot. The argument is
Probably
essentially
is.
like you're walking past someone like drowning. Are you morally obliged to like save them if there's a 90% chance that you will also die? And then it's like, no, but it might be morally virtuous. And then it's like, okay, what if it's a 50-50 chance? And it's like, okay, what if it's just you'll ruin your new $50 pair of shoes and they'll be worthless after this? And then most people at that point will say, no, you're morally obliged to save the drowning child. If it just means ruining your $100 or $50 pair of shoes. In which case, the Peter Singer says, okay, well, you can save a child for $150 with a donation to a specific charity. Yeah. So why aren't we doing that? Is essentially the argument. So yeah, I imagine you'd kind of you'd like that kind of framing, right?
I'm fairly sympathetic to that. Yes, definitely. I do like effective altruism, but I'm not like a consequentialist or anything, but I do like effective altruism.
Yeah.
Quite a lot. And yeah. So in that case, I would say yeah. So then going back to the rich person, like I think Bill Gates would be doing something deeply wrong if he did not do anything that uses wealth to help anyone else, right?
He's given everyone in the world the ability to access hardcore pornography everywhere. So I mean, like he's done a lot. No, I'm joking.
A lot for hedonism.
Yeah, a lot for hedonism. It wasn't his fault. It's just, but it's just where things go. But to be, but back on topic, maybe we could discuss why you think my moral system is wrong in my subjective, because you believe in objective morality. Mm-hmm. How can you think that, in my opinion? Like, I have no idea how you can think that, because to me, unless you're subscribing to like a God belief or you're positing something like TJump, I don't know how you get there.
Mm-hmm. All right, but we'll also wait. I forgot my favorite one that I feel like TJump needs to have an answer for. He probably does.
Okay.
But I want to say that before getting into it. A depressed person wants to be killed. The next day they will get better. I know that they will get better the next day. They ask me to kill them. I think it's wrong for me to kill them. But that doesn't seem to be an involuntary imposition of will if they want to die, even though I know the next day they won't want to have died.
Wow. Like, yeah, so it's like a heroin addict or someone going through withdrawals, and they're like, just kill me. And they don't know. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's a really interesting point.
Yeah. Maybe he's thought about that before, but yeah. All right.
It might be too. He might say that the imposition of will might be like not the will, because at the time he might say that they're out of their mind. They're not, because a big thing that we got into was essentially like, what about people who don't think women should drive, and etc., like cultures, and he's like, well, they're just wrong.
Yes.
And he's like, based. And it's just like, well, how do they, like, to me it's like you can just kind of escape it by just pointing to, it's like, well, they're just wrong. They don't want to end their life. They're just wrong. That about that. And you're like, okay.
But then wrongness is just involuntary imposition of will, and it seems like it is their will to die. But then if we cash out will in this way, it's like what's actually best for them. Then it's like wrongness is doing things that are not the best for someone, which seems different than imposition of will. But I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so objective morality.
Yeah.
Well,
here we go. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, I think there are true objective facts about reality. Punching babies for fun is wrong, no matter what anyone thinks about it. And basically, I just think that moral realism is going to be it seems to be the best moral system. It seems to account for like the appropriate data, quote unquote, like theoretical points. And it doesn't seem to run into these vast issues like subjectivism, for example. If we're taking it as the academic definition, it's going to be a conjunction of cognitivism, which is the thesis that when we are making moral statements, they're truth apt, right? So it's similar, there's a wall in front of me. That's a truth apt statement, right? And just like that, moral statements are trying to pick out something in the world, right, and say something true about them. So yeah, they believe that that's what moral statements are doing. So when I say, hey, killing that person's wrong, I'm trying to pick out some fact of the world. And but then subjectivists will also say, so it's cognitivism, and then the truth maker of these propositions is going to be some sort of connotative state of the agent saying it, right? Or some sort of preference of the agent, right? So when I say, abortion is wrong, right? I'm trying to pick out something in the world, and a subjectivist says, oh, well, what you're trying to pick out is just your own preferences. And if I do actually prefer or disprefer abortion, then my statement is true. Abortion is wrong is a true proposition because I genuinely believe that it is. I genuinely prefer against it or whatever. And yeah, so is that sort of like what you're?
Yeah, but how? So, for me as a moral anti-realist, and once again for everyone listening, I'm not dug into my position. I'm still trying to investigate where I start from, but this is kind of where I've landed. But at this stage, but like, so from my perspective, I would just say that, yeah, people just operate within their preferences. So people have one perspective, people have another perspective, and then they think something's right and something's wrong. But I don't think those right and wrongs actually exist outside of like our social norms, our feelings, our like they're like amorphous. They're not real. Does that make sense? Like the same way love isn't real.
What do you mean love isn't real?
Like love is real in that, like, I love my wife loves me, or something, or I love my dog loves me. I shouldn't put those two together like that. But you know, like love is real in that, like, you can feel real, you can sense the feelings, but like probably love is a chemical reaction that's happening in the brain, and it gives you like a subjective like feeling. But that subjective feeling, like, I could just as easily, like, it's not a tangible real thing that you can point to in the universe besides the chemicals or whatever. But like
well, those are real. Those are just the things we call love, I think.
Yeah. But that when I'm like talking to my wife, I don't go like, oh, the chemicals in my brain are firing just right now for you. Like we talk about this thing called love that is like a separate entity to the chemicals that's going on in our brain. Well, or is fear real? Like, it's real in that people experience it, and it's something that we use, but I can't point to anywhere in nature and say that is where fear is, unless you're talking about black holes. Like, that was a joke. Yeah,
you just point to the brain there. I mean, like, you don't say you believe thinking is real, right? You don't know if thinking is real?
So
what are you doing right now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like I can't not answer that. Yeah, well, I think thinking is real, but once again, I don't think that you can point to somewhere in the universe that is thinking. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. But like,
yeah,
like, so okay, so back to the abortion argument, right? A pro-lifer thinks that abortion is wrong, right? Killing a life is wrong, and a pro-choicer thinks that giving women a choice is wrong, right? Or whatever the arguments are. I'm giving a bad example. They're both just operating like, and they both deeply feel what they feel, but they both can't be like, they both like they. To me, where's the objectiveness in that if they're both thinking of two separate things? They both got two separate ideas. Like they're both on opposite ends of the spectrum. How can that be anything but someone just operating within their preferences?
Well, have you ever heard of like Berkeleyan idealism? It's this like niche, I guess not that niche. It's a philosophy thing where basically the view is that like the only thing that exists is like your mind or minds, right?
Yeah,
like this isn't a table or anything, right?
Yeah.
How can some people so deeply and truly believe that, but then people like me, and I would assume you, believe there is in fact a table in front of me? You got a coffee mug in your hand, right?
Yeah.
So how could that be anything but just preferences?
Well, it would be, yeah, okay, maybe I'm using the wrong example then.
This is where I think the disagreement arguments don't work out very well, because it sinks pretty much all of philosophy. If you're going to say just because agents, even agents that are like deeply deliberating, still disagree on these things, it's like, okay, well, philosophers also deeply disagree about if the argument from disagreement is a good one or not.
Yeah.
But there's still obviously an objective answer there to whether or not it's a good argument or not, right? But I deeply disagree with you that it's a good argument. But there is an objective
Yeah.
answer still. So,
So when you say objective, what do you mean there? When you say
like,
like morality is objective, what do you mean?
yeah, it's just going to be true independent of what agents think about it. Our thinking morality is a certain way does not determine the truth of like moral propositions or anything, or it does not determine whether or not an entity has a moral property. That's going to be determined by, well, it's not going to be determined by our minds. And this is not to say, like, some people get like confused here, and they'll say, like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense because you need to have minds for there to be like wrong actions, right? If we just have a world with no minds, there's not going to be any wrong actions. Who are you going to wrong? The rocks, the trees? But that's not what it is saying. And you can think of these moral facts as sort of conditionals. So the conditional would be if there is in fact a moral agent, and that moral agent beats up a child for no reason, because they really like beating up children, then wrongness, the property, is instantiated on that action. And this conditional holding true, the if then statement being true, is not going to be dependent on what anyone thinks about the statement, right? So yeah, that's sort of what I'm getting at.
What would be wrong about stealing a candy bar?
Well, stealing is wrong, I think. So like, it's wrong
why?
because well, I'm not sure there's anything deeper. Stealing is wrong because I haven't really thought about exactly grounding why stealing is wrong. But actions are going to be wrong when the agent performing them is not being appropriately sensitive to the reasons that are beholden of them.
Okay.
That's when actions are wrong.
So in a vacuum, like stealing wouldn't be wrong. Like if you weren't, if you were like stealing from, like, well, in a vacuum, like if there's no, like if you're, well, I guess it wouldn't be stealing, but like if you were stealing from someone that would never know about it and never be affected by it, let's say there's a farmer with a huge plot of land and you stole a rock from him or from his land and he would never know about it, never anything, would that be wrong?
I don't think so. That seems fine to me. And so what's going to make it wrong, right, is if I'm not appropriately sensitive to reasons. So in that case, we got all these reasons. We got the farmer's never going to know. The farmer wouldn't give a shit even if he did know. I have no way to ask the farmer, right? Okay, well, those seem to outweigh, maybe the principle that taking others' property, you're taking another person's property, and that's a reason against it. But it seems that's going to be outweighed by all the other shit, which is like he doesn't care and wouldn't get, like, all of that.
Or maybe he does care, but he's never going to know about it. He does care. He's never going to know about it, and he's never, and he's not going to notice because it's a small rock. But let's say he's a crazy like farmer who's like likes his rocks or something.
What are you using the rock for?
I don't know.
I think if you're using the rock for a good reason, it's probably. I mean, that seems to outweigh.
Oh, like that's the consequential. Like that's like ends justify the means. The consequentialism, isn't it?
Not necessarily.
Like, well, like, okay, like let's leave it at what we had before, and like I'll move to another example that's a bit more extreme. So we talked about punching babies before, which is my
there we go. That's an easier one.
Yeah. So let's say that you could punch this baby, right? And the baby didn't have a central nervous system, so it couldn't feel anything, and you wouldn't leave a mark, and it didn't know about it, and no one else knew about it. What would be wrong there?
Yeah, so those are all. Yeah, no, I don't think anything would be wrong with that because of all the reasons that you just said.
Okay.
Whether or not an action is wrong, again, is just if the agent doing the action is appropriately sensitive to the reasons. All of those reasons seem to outweigh. I mean, I can't really even think of. I don't know what reason would go there. Maybe some autonomy thing. I don't know, but I don't even know if you can wrong. I don't even know if you can wrong a being like that. If they just like totally can't like have any experiences, I don't think you can wrong a being like that, and that is the reason why the action's okay.
Yeah, but you can go like obviously I kind of don't want to, but you can go like way further with this, right? Like with what you like I'm sure a lot of like rapists make this argument to themselves when they're like date raping someone, like, oh, they'll never remember it, blah blah blah, and they like justify it in their head like that way.
Well, okay,
That's different.
That's different, right?
That's different
then
because
they're
of,
not
like,
going to be. Yeah, the reasons are different.
well, yeah, well, the reasons there, like, I don't want to. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna make the. I'm not gonna play devil's advocate for a rapist, but like their argument would essentially, like, if they like, if the person never remembered it, they never knew about it, like the STDs were like a non thing and stuff. There was no damage. Like, let's say they just groped them or touched them or something. Like this, it seems to get really a bit messy in this situation where, right, because like how do you ground that out in objective reality, objective morality?
Well, oh shit, sorry. Oh, I took a B12 pill. Now it's all right. I got it. It was in my throat. I couldn't swallow it. But yeah. So why is it wrong to like grope a
I think it's
stranger
wrong
who
just
doesn't know?
to. Yeah, I think it's wrong, obviously, but like,
Yeah, because there are reasons, and the reason is you're violating a stranger's autonomy, and that
yeah,
reason favors not doing it. So a reason is simply a fact that favors something, or or a consideration that favors something. So for example, I want a cup of coffee. That's I don't, but say I did. You want coffee.
Mhm.
So the fact that you want coffee, that is a
Coffee is.
reason, and that reason favors you taking a sip of your coffee.
Yeah,
So likewise, the fact that I'm violating an agent's autonomy by groping them when they'll never know, well, that's a fact, and that's a reason, and that reason
yeah.
favors not groping them.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that it's going to be wrong for an agent to do that is they're not appropriately sensitive to the reasons beholden of them. One of those
Yeah.
reasons being that the fact that you're violating autonomy favors not doing it.
Yeah. What about if there was if there was no one who was having they weren't being, like, what if there were two consenting adults? Like, have you heard the incest argument? Like how incest, like talking about incest is like a really good way to explore moral dumbfounding, where it feels wrong, but you can't really point to a reason. So like, let's say you have two above age, let's say a 50-year-old father and a 35-year-old son, and they just for some reason want to start banging each other, and they weren't groomed, no one was groomed or whatever. What would be the wrong thing there of these two consenting adults?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably fine.
Yes, you bit the bullet. I had to bite that bullet
I mean,
when I was debating
when
some Muslims, so it was really bad.
Yeah, when
it
someone
really
asks me why is incest wrong, the reasons I'm going to give: power dynamics, potential kid coming out that's like
deformed,
messed up or whatever, and all those things. Those are the reasons that incest is wrong, and those reasons don't apply in the case that you've just laid out. So it's probably okay. I don't like it, but I also don't.
No, I don't like it. Like, I
Brussels
don't like it
sprouts.
either. Like, it's gross, but like, this is the argument I gave before. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gross, but some foods to me are also gross.
Right.
Yeah, like bacon to me is actually now pretty fucking gross. Since not eating meat for a while, but we'll still cook it if friends come around for or whatever. If they bring over bacon, we'll still cook it for them, and it makes me, like, the smell of it makes me sick. Yeah. So what did you think of talking about veganism? What do you think of TJump's perspective on morality not informing our choices?
Oh, yeah. So I actually wrote down something about this.
Yeah.
This is the part where I believe you said it reeks of subjectivism or something.
Maybe. So
Okay.
a lot of dumb
So
stuff in that conversation.
essentially, this is my statement. So just because people are willing to turn a blind eye to their morals doesn't imply subjectivism at all. For example, many people will believe things based on, like here's another non-moral example.
Mm-hmm.
Many people will believe things based on wishful thinking.
Mm-hmm.
They will flout the epistemic reasons beholden of them. So just like I outlined for moral reasons, epistemic reasons are the same. They're just reasons to believe things. And obviously, you believing something based on wishful thinking is going to be a reason against believing the thing. So many people will believe things based on wishful thinking. They will flout epistemic reasons beholden of them. Does this mean that there isn't an objective answer to the question of if we should believe things simply based on wishful thinking? And I think no. I think we totally shouldn't believe things based on wishful thinking and should believe things that have the best evidence for them. But people
Mm-hmm.
disregard that all the fucking time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I don't think we look at that and we're like, "Oh shit. Yeah, there's no reason to believe things that have the best evidence for them." Right? That seems a little silly. And so I'm not sure why we would be doing that in the moral case. Just because people turn a blind eye does not mean that these reasons don't exist and don't actually weigh on them. Weigh on them not like
So
as in like their psyche and they're like, fuck, right? But like they
yeah.
actually favor things.
So like I'll use the example like I give when I'm drunk at a party or whatever, and I'm trying to play devil's advocate for the non-vegan because I eat a predominantly vegan diet, but sometimes I like this like I've got a bit of a weird ethic here where like if someone brings out cheese, I'll eat cheese, or if my wife buys cheese, I'll eat cheese. I don't eat meat, but like so kind of wishy-washy there to be honest, but mainly vegetarian slash vegan. All my work buys me like boots, the leather and stuff, and I don't object.
You should.
So
You're not being appropriately sensitive to your reasons there, David.
gosh, yeah, I know. We can get into a whole other vegan discussion one time, but let's say like a proper one. But let's say like if I just say to you, what's wrong with killing a pig to eat it?
Yeah. Also I can send you a great paper on this. Okay, who I also did an AMA with. But yeah, I would say what grounds killing being wrong in general is that if you were to kill a being, it would deprive them of a valuable future.
But why do I care?
Well, because I mean, why do you? I don't know. I can't make you care, but all I can do
Yeah.
is give arguments for why you should care.
Yeah.
And this seems like a plausible explanation for why killing them is wrong, because it also explains other things that we think are wrong, such as locking a pack animal, right, in a like room where they don't have access to other members of their species or anything. You know, you feed them and everything. They're full. You don't hurt them or anything, but you just lock them in the room for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
That seems pretty shitty, right? And why is that shitty? A natural explanation seems to be that we're depriving them of a valuable future.
Yeah.
And so if we got depriving individuals of valuable futures is wrong, well, that's exactly what killing is doing. So that's the reason against killing the animals. I can't.
But what if I just say I don't care and I just do it?
I mean, then you do it, I guess. There's actually, so I don't know. I could straw man you a little bit here, or sorry, steel man you a little bit here. There's actually a guy named Richard Joyce who makes an argument called the "so what" argument. I don't know if that's what it's actually called. That's what I call it. But basically, he says an agent, a reason cannot apply to an agent if they can reasonably or sensibly ask, "So what?" About the reason once they learn that it exists and applies to them. Therefore, and humans can reasonably and sensibly ask, "So what?" upon learning that they have some moral reason to do something, right? You have more reason to not eat meat. That's a good one, because a lot of people accept that and then say, "So what?" Right? Yeah, it's wrong, but so what? right?
Mm.
And if an agent can sensibly ask "so what" upon learning about a reason that applies to them, then they're alienated from that reason, and the reason doesn't apply to them. Is that something that you're sort of getting at, or are you getting more at like, what do I literally do if someone says I don't give a shit about morality and just stomps around and
No,
does whatever?
it's more. I guess I would be kind of sneaking in subjectivism there because because like what I would say to what I would normally say to someone is like, there's no way I can point to in like the natural world that says it's okay or not okay to kill X animal, right? That's just like something that, like for me, when I don't like an animal, I don't like to see an animal suffer because I can empathize with them. I don't the reasons for why the reasons is because I want like I like to see something live its full life. I like to see I can put myself in the animal's shoes. I don't think taste pleasure outweighs the death of an animal, etc., etc. Like there's a million reasons, but all of those reasons are subjective to me. Like they're all in my mind. They're all um, like they're not grounded in, like I can't point to anything in the universe and say this is the reason. It's just this is how I personally feel.
Well, the reason is just the fact, right? That favors something. So the reason, right? If you're a subjectivist, when you can say the reason that I, think like killing is wrong or whatever is because of what I said, like killing for burgers is wrong is because one doesn't outweigh the other, and one not weighing out the other is the reason which favors you not killing and eating the animal or whatever. And so the reason is just simply the fact, and then to you as a subjectivist, you'd say what grounds the fact that the reason favors a certain action is going to be whatever you think, whatever's going on in your brain, your preferences, or whatever. And to me, I think what grounds the fact that reasons favor certain actions, we could say the fact that the reason killing deprives an animal of a valuable future favors not killing animals. That's going to be grounded in something external to our minds. It's just sort of a fact of the universe, right? And so I assume next you're going to say, well, how do we just point to that? How do we point to this fact of the universe? And what I say is we operate with things we can't actually physically point to all the time. For example, would you say you're more like would you say you're pretty like skeptical? Like you're like a skeptic?
Yeah.
Right. So where are you going to point to that says skepticism is like epistemically a good thing? You're being epistemically responsible when you're skeptical of various things. How do you point to something there?
I don't. I like it. It gets down to it gets to, like it gets down to Hume's thought, right? That we can only know things through our senses and blah blah blah. Like
how do you know that though?
Well, yeah, and then you get down to eventually you get down to the proper basic beliefs where we have to assume stuff, right?
I guess, yeah. But so you can't point to anything in the universe that says we can only trust our senses, or we should only trust our senses.
No,
right?
but like if I was to like let's pretend like the universe is one big like video game, right? I feel like I've understood the rules of this universe enough in my 33 years of life that I can make subjective. I can make like what Matt Dillahunty says. I want to believe as many true things as little false things as possible, so I can make inferences from what I've learned about how this universe operates, and then make like best case, I guess, inferences to what may happen in the future based on certain decisions and stuff. So I don't truly know that when the animal is thrashing around and looking like it's dying, and when it's dying and looking like it's having a horrible time. I don't truly know that that animal is having a horrible time, but I can make inferences that it is having a horrible time based on what we know about, like, biology, the nervous system, sentient thinking, and all those things, right? So, like, I make assumptions, but I would say those assumptions are grounded in what I've experienced so far in the universe.
Right. So take it out of like you being skeptical about various external world things, inferences, science, all that. I'm simply pointing out that you believe, right, um, in various epistemic principles. Like you believe that it's appropriate for you to start with basic assumptions about how the world works through your senses and then make inferences from there. You think that's an appropriate way to um, govern your beliefs, right? But there's nothing in the world that you can point to that says it's appropriate to govern your beliefs in this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you already operate with things that you believe are external facts about reality, such as epistemic principles that we can't point to in the world, right?
No,
No?
but that's what if I just, like, because, like, I feel like with epistemic, like, what I was just mentioning with all those thoughts is like it is somewhat subjective. Like, I'm a subjectivist when it comes to epistemic principles as well.
Oh, interesting. So,
Yeah. So like there's no way for me to like, I will say that 1 + 1 = 2, right? But that's only if we define one and plus and one and two, right? And equals. Like, we have to define all those things and then work within that system, and then it's only true within that system. Like, I don't, and I think that we can make assumptions on expanding that out to other systems, but we can only work with it within that system that we've created, those definitions, because there could be some, like, there probably is some weird quantum mechanics where one doesn't equal one or something, right? So, like, it only works under a certain framework, and then we use that framework to build novel testable predictions in science, so we can build hypotheses and build theories, and then we can do things with the world. But we have to start with, like, being super skeptical about everything. That's
and we
more
have to start
science.
by being skeptical. Why?
To make to well, it seems to be the best way to. I'm talking more about the scientific method now, but it seems to be the best way to determine what is most likely true in the universe.
But why do we have to believe the
We don't
things
have
that
to.
are most
It's not a
likely to be?
prescription. It's not a
Okay, so
prescription.
you
It's
don't
a
think that we should believe, or do you think that we should believe the things that have the best evidence for them, or no?
Can you define should for me there?
Yeah, like we ought to believe the things that have the best evidence for them.
Yeah, I would say that we should, but that's a subjective. My subjective opinion.
Okay, so
You
you don't think
see,
there's anything real there that you're pointing to when you're saying
no.
you should believe? Okay.
So, like, for example, let's say my nan is terrified of death, right? And the doctor has two options, and
Hmm.
the doctor pulls us aside and says, she's got cancer, she's going to die in a week. Do you want me to tell her, or do you want me to lie to her? And lying to her, we're about to go to Disney World, we're about to have a great time. She wasn't in any pain, but she knew that she would drop dead in a week. I think in that situation, I would opt for to be told, because I want to believe as many true things as false things as possible. Like, I'm okay with the uncomfortable feelings that are associated with it, but my grandmother is not. So in that instance, I would say, don't tell my grandmother that she's going to die, and just let her live out the last week of her life happy. So in that instance, I would say for her, subjectively, the best thing for her would be subjectively would be to not believe things, like, not believe the true
Hmm.
thing in that situation.
Okay, so you think that some agents are justified in believing falsities because the justification simply depends on like what they think.
Say that again.
So say you're talking about me, right?
Mhm.
And say I am like your grandma or whatever, and like I know like I am dying, but I don't want to believe I'm dying. fragile mentally or whatever, would you say that I'm justified in not being I'm justified in not believing the true thing because what determines the justification of my belief is simply just what I think?
Well, this is where I'd go back to the 1+1 thing. So it depends on your goals. So if you want to believe as many true things as possible, if that's your goal in that situation, then I would say that yes, it's that you are
Oh,
justified in believing true things. So it
okay.
all
So
comes
these
back
are
to
okay. These are
it all comes back to
hypothetical.
like it all comes back to your goals, in my
Okay.
opinion.
All right. Well, I got a little thought experiment for you.
Uh-oh.
So,
You're gonna blow my whole like worldview apart. This is good. This is what I
well,
want.
okay. So let's say that we have a person, we'll call her Kate, and her biggest goal in life is to believe that her family is like perfect, right? And they would never break any laws, they would never hurt anyone else, right? And that's her top goal.
Hmm.
Say she also cares about having true beliefs, but not as much as the other one.
Yeah.
So now, one day, she turns on the TV and sees her twin brother committing a horrible crime, pops up with his face, gives his name, says he's been arrested, everything, there's video evidence of him doing it, and she immediately forms the belief that her brother has committed a crime. Do you think that is an unjustified belief because it's not in accordance with her goals?
No, because it would still be true that her brother committed this crime, but it would be against her her subjective wants. I call it
Yeah, you
wants.
said the justification for if someone should believe something comes down to their desires. Her desires are to
Oh,
not
maybe
believe
not.
it,
Maybe
even though it is true.
okay. So maybe maybe I'm getting confused. So no, I don't think it's you can justify like a false belief based on something. It's just whether or not, uh, yeah.
Really?
I don't think, yeah, so I probably should rephrase that. I don't think it's a justification to believe untrue things.
But you said what determines justification is the goals.
So like, yeah, in whatever framework you're using, like, so, um, have you seen that stupid meme by Valsh, who was like debating someone, and he was like, and someone said like, is it is water H2O? No,
Oh,
and he says,
the
and then he
aqua.
goes like, yeah, and he goes, when you go over the border, it's aqua. Yeah, it's like depending on the framework you're using, like that is oh, I don't like to agree with Vosh, but there's some truth to that, right?
Do
Like
you agree with
it's
Vosh
always
about the aqua
no,
thing?
no, no, I don't agree with the aqua thing, but there's some truth in that. Like when you go to like a new community and you're talking about water, you're not using the word water, you're not using the word H2O. It depends on like the framework that you're in to what you use, but you're all pointing to the same like thing in the universe, right? But like, okay, like so
Yeah.
like if me and you are talking about water and I point to a lake and say, look, water is in the lake. Well, there's not just water in the lake. There's water, but the water is made up of like H2O. That's what like the scientific definition of water is. But then there's like other things, and there's probably like microbes, there's bugs, there's algae, there's like a bunch of other things that are in that water that we would encompass as in that water, or the aqua. So right, that's what I meant by it depends on the framework that you're trying to use. I
Wait,
hope
so
I'm making sense.
well, like, I'm not. Hmm, I'm a little confused. So
So am
water
I.
being H2O depends on the framework you use.
No, water is always H2O.
Mm-hmm.
But well, when I say water, I'm using the term that refers to H2Os. But like, let's say if you're in another country and the word water meant dirt or something, right? Like the word the noise that came out of mouth that meant dirt. That would be different. But
Yeah,
when we're talking about water, I'm talking about H2O. Yeah,
you're talking about
scientifically.
water.
But you
Yeah,
can,
water. The stuff is H2O.
yeah,
Always. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Wait. So how does that apply to the justification of Kate?
So you were saying that Kate has like Kate sees her. She wants to believe that her she really really wants to believe that her family is good, but she sees information that's contradicting that. Well, the true it would still be true that she wants to believe that her family is good, and it may influence how she views the verdict and all this stuff. But the truth would still be that she saw her brother on the news, and her brother had been convicted, not convicted, but at least was under
Right.
arrest or whatever for doing this crime. Yes, that would be true.
But we're talking about the justification here. We're talking about, is Kate justified or unjustified when she forms the true belief that her brother did do these things? Because if, as you said earlier, we're simply indexing epistemic justification to the desires or the goals of the agent believing, then Kate would have formed an unjustified belief. But clearly, Kate did not form an unjustified belief because the belief was true after all. Therefore, that is not a good way of cashing out epistemic justification.
So how does that relate to what I was saying? Sorry, how does that relate to what I was saying before about my epistemic justifications?
It shows that
Like,
epistemic
like,
justifications are not grounded in the desires of the agents believing.
oh, so, but how did that like? Because I don't think I said that, or I didn't mean to say that.
Oh, I thought you did. You said the epistemic justification, and then you said it all comes down to the desires, right? Or the goals, you said?
Yeah, so like the goals of like the objective statements.
The goals
So
of the objective statements?
yeah. So like 1 + 1 = 2. That makes sense to us, or like if you're talking to a grade person. But like you got to define each thing, each like thing. If you're going to like high levels of like information, high levels of like thought, right?
Wait,
Like
okay.
if we were having like a serious discussion on like 1 + 1 = 2, then we'd have to define what one is, what plus is, what one is, what equals is, and what two is, right? To truly get to the answer. And that answer would only work in whatever framework we've used to define those things.
Okay, I'm a little confused, but all right. So just give me definition of justification or whatever.
Or framework, you mean?
Either one.
Or
I care about talking about justification because I want to know if you believe justification to be in the realist sense or the anti-realist sense.
So
Epistemic justification, and then we can move to moral later. But
trying to think of a good example.
for me, an agent is justified when they're appropriately sensitive to the reasons beholden of them. Yeah, that's what I say. But I think justification becomes really tricky on an on some anti-realist views, rather. Like, yeah, which is yeah. I think moralism doesn't run into a lot of problems that other broader metaphysical views do, and that's just one of the reasons, I guess.
Okay, I think I'm a little lost in the conversation, to be honest. I'm trying to put my thoughts together. I don't know if it's because it's because I didn't get much sleep, but I'm trying to put my thoughts together. I'm not having a good time. I'm not understanding. I'm getting a bit lost. Maybe you can bring us back on track a little bit.
Okay.
Because
Well, sorry. Basically, what I'm trying to get you on is epistemic justification exists in the realist sense, in the same way that I'm talking about morality. And once I get you brought onto that, I can show you that just because you can't physically point to something in the world doesn't mean like that it doesn't exist or whatever. Because I think these epistemic reasons quite obviously exist. They're the way we deliberate in philosophy. And so basically, I'm asking you, because you said you view epistemic justification in an anti-realist sense. I'm asking you how you cash out this justification. I gave you the way that I do it in a realist sense. I think that makes a whole lot of sense of our practices regarding deliberation. and I'm not sure how your system would do that.
Yeah, I'd have to I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this and rethink about it because I'm struggling to my brain is just not working in that area at the moment. But maybe I could ask you some questions about what you said there about like morality being objective, because about what you just said there, because to me, what would what would let's say all do you think there's anything moral about a lion hunting an antelope?
What do you, I don't think. I think for wrongness to instantiate, it has to be an agent being not appropriately sensitive to their reasons. Lions aren't agents, so wrongness doesn't apply, but badness certainly might.
Okay, what do you mean by they're not agents?
They're not moral agents. They don't have the capacity to deliberate about ethical issues.
What about dogs?
Same thing.
Dogs,
Same thing with babies.
Dogs definitely know what's right and wrong.
I don't think so.
Whoa, come on! You can I come into the room and my dog knows if he's done something naughty. If he's ripped apart a pillow or something, he's hiding from me because he knows.
I don't think he's. I don't think he's he's thinking about it in the same way I am.
No, he's not thinking about it the same way, but
I mean, I think it's much more of just a reaction to, oh, I know owner doesn't like this, which is far different than ethically deliberating, right? Even as a kid, oh well, I didn't take the meat out of the freezer and my mom's almost home. Shit. I realize I've done something naughty. I don't know if that's wrong. Am I
yeah,
or whatever. I draw a distinction between 7-year-old me being shit, I gotta get the meat out of the fridge, and me now being damn, I really shouldn't have lied to that person just to go home from the party earlier. I could have just told the truth.
So okay, so then we could go down a whole other path there, but let's not. Let's stick on to the animal thing. Let's say there is no agents in the animal world, and there's nothing wrong with a lion killing a gazelle or whatever. Let's say humanity is wiped out. Let's say Christianity is true and we all get raptured and the others die or something. Does morals cease to exist?
No. So this is what I was trying to get at the beginning. You can think of moral facts as conditionals. So you can think of them same with physical fact, laws of nature, right? I don't think the laws of nature regarding how trees grow stop existing when trees stop existing, because I think of it as a conditional. The law of nature is, if there were to be this sort of plant, list all the biology of a tree, then these sorts of physical attributes apply to it, right?
But now you're sounding like TJump a little bit, because now you're saying, because with a plant growing, we know that they need certain physical characteristics. They need a certain amount of liquid, water. They need heat. They need oxygen. They need all these other things that we can point to that are real things in the universe. But with morality, we can't point to something that I can touch, hold, or see, or pick up with a scientific device that is morality. Where it seems
I
you're
don't think
saying
that matters. I'm talking about for what I'm saying is, the moral fact that I'm claiming to exist is, if there were to be a moral agent, right? This is how I'm running wrong, guys. If there were to be a moral agent, and they were to be not appropriately sensitive to the reasons beholden of them, then the property wrongness applies. The conditional does not instantiate in a world without agents, right? Just like it's always and forever going to be true that if gravity exists and I drop a small object onto something with a gravitational pull, it will go towards the object with the gravitational pull. That conditional is true regardless of if there's gravity or not in the universe. It's just it only instantiates when gravity exists.
Mm.
So the statement, if there were to be gravity, then small object go to object with gravitational pull.
Mm.
That proposition is true. It's a necessary truth, but it only instantiates when there's gravity in the world. So likewise,
Right.
these moral facts are necessary truths and only instantiate when there are agents.
We see we might agree then, but I might just be defining it really weird, because like that's what I would just call subjective. So maybe it's not subjective then. Maybe I would just like, okay, let's say we wipe this universe, right, and we start again. We give all the same conditions, and we wire humans the same way and everything like that. Then people would still in that universe, people would still, and I'll use this term, operate within their preferences, for what they, like I said with TJump, stabbing knife in leg, bad, like hurty, right? Like people would still operate within their preferences in that universe, and those preferences would look identical to the preferences we have today. So let's say, so like that, the fact that moral agent doesn't like a certain thing and refers to it as bad or immoral because it goes against their preferences, would happen in any universe with the same systems that we have, like biological systems, thinking systems, everything, all the same systems. It would be the same. So then in that way it is objective, in that it doesn't require human like subjectivity to it's like an objective statement of a subjective human experience, like saying humans experience love is an objective statement about a subjective thing. Would you agree with that statement? Humans experience love.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would just call that an objective fact. I'm taking subjective to mean the truth value of the proposition is going to be made true via, us thinking something, right? It's objectively true, right? Yeah, that humans love. It's objectively true that I like, to eat green beans or whatever. Yeah, and just because agents do like the same thing, I guess, in worlds where the physical conditions are all the same, I'm not sure how that makes any argument against there being objective morality. And they're not. I'm confused how that's a point against moral realism.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It might not be. It might not be a point against it. It might be a point for it. We might be actually agreeing. I'm just using the terminology differently.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if it's a point for it. I'm just like, I agree that if all of the physical conditions are the same in world A and world B, then the same things are going to happen, and the same properties are going to instantiate. What is it? They're the same properties are going to supervene, right, on the natural properties. So we're going to get all the same moral properties in two worlds, I guess, where all the same natural properties are the same. So that's how supervenience works. But yeah, I'm not. It doesn't seem. Yeah, I'm not sure where the confusion lies, I guess.
Well, I think I might agree in that way, in like in how you're defining it. I just don't know. I just have not heard of, like, every time I talk, when we talk about, usually when we talk about like objective facts, like when I talk to like, theists, they'll say, where do you get your morality from? And then they'll talk about, their God belief. And that's where you get your morality from, their digital Hammurabi. Hang on, I gotta look at this. Yeah, discussing morality with an atheist, people can't even grant the necessary preconditions for the instantiation of the necessary granting of all things possible. Digital Hammurabi. Everyone go subscribe to Digital Hammurabi. Awesome. They got their new book just came. I got a signed version of their new book, and Dr. Josh called me a bitch because I told him to write something sassy in the
Is this a Darth meme? The comment?
I don't know. I don't actually know. Let's go back to it. Discussing morality with atheists. People can't even
That
ground
seems
themselves.
exactly like a thing this guy Darth says, right? Do you know
Darth
him?
Dawkins.
Yeah, Darth
Darth Dawkins.
Dawkins.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably
that dude's a
is.
meme machine.
Yeah, he's a walking, talking meme. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an incredible guy.
But yeah, for the anyone who's interested, really great book, The Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament, Volume 2. It's just been out. It's amazing. Not just for atheists, but so where were we? Yeah, so maybe I'm just defining objective morality differently, because when I talk to like theists about it, they, and you seem to have a problem with objective morality from a theist perspective, right?
Yeah, I'm not a theist.
Yeah. So what will be your issues with objective morality from a theistic perspective? Someone said Peach God.
Well, oh, Pocket. Thanks, Peach.
And then Digital Rami just said, I want the room to notice that this atheist David Donald obfuscated and pretty accurately in the clear circumscription typical atheist can cut. Yeah, Darth Dawkins.
Typical
100%.
atheist.
I'll better tweet to him. Darth Dawkins has got their account.
Exactly. So yeah, my problems with theism, I guess it's I'm not sure I haven't been given an argument that it is the best explanation for anything, and so I'm not confident on the ontological arguments for theism. And then also the problem of evil kind of weighs on me a lot.
Explain that to me, the problem of evil, because we talked about that briefly last time off air.
So it's formulated in a whole lot of different ways, but the way I like to say it is basically God, omnibenevolent, omniscient, omnipotent, has he can instantiate all logically possible states of affairs. Some people say he can instantiate all. We'll say logically that just gets out of the lift a rock that he make a rock that is so heavy he can't lift or whatever. Yeah. So most theists will say he can instantiate all logically possible states of affairs. Mm-hmm. It's a logically possible state of affair that we all have free will, but the only options that we can choose from are all good things. Right? That's logically possible. There's no contradiction in there. Therefore, God can instantiate it. And I'm much more confident in my ethical convictions and the moral realism than I am for any ontological argument for God. Thus, I am not a theist because I don't know how you could be benevolent as well as omnipotent and omniscient. Maybe throw out omnibenevolent, in which case I'm like, okay, I don't really care all that much about God, and give me a good ontological argument and I'll buy into it. But yeah.
It seems like I remember we talked about an example of like if you're in a room and there were two buttons and one was like, right. You press the button and it kills someone in the world, but you get $100, and the other one was like, you press it and it gives $100 to someone else, and like you could make the statement that it would be the evil thing to do to press the button that killed someone and gave you $100, right? But
this is the compatibilism thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but God could have created a universe where you press one button and it gave $100 to someone, or he press the other button and it gave $50 to someone. Yeah. They're both still good things. One is more good than the other thing. So, like, why are we in this universe where evil things can happen? It just seems
It seems odd. Yeah.
Well, either it can't, like, the only way to get around that is God is he's not benevolent, like he doesn't love everyone or whatever, or he's not he's not powerful, like all powerful or all knowing, like those things. Or this is what I imagine a lot of Christians will say. They'll say his ways are above our ways, his thoughts are above our thoughts. We don't know things. Or they'll say sin into the world because of our mistakes or whatever. But that gets back to the
I talked to a Jehovah's Witness friend of mine the other day about it. And basically, he just kept going back to like Adam and Eve, and I was like, okay, but there could have been 3 fruits. None of the fruits are evil. They can freely
Hmm.
choose between all 3 of the fruits. And you can't be like, oh, well, that's not real freedom. Real freedom is being able to do anything. It's like, well, I can't fucking fly, like, and
Yeah,
I'm still, I still have freedom, right?
it's
God
also
determined the metaphysics of the world. He can build boxes and like make, yeah, he can give us whatever, and only good
yeah,
objects.
or the or like the argument is like why doesn't God just appear to everyone? It's like, well, because we need to have faith, we need to have free will. If he appeared to everyone, everyone would just know him. But it's like Satan knew him, like
Hmm.
the devil knew him, and then still chose to rebel. Like he was a free agent and chose to rebel against God, knowing fully knowing God's power, might, strength, everything, and
Right.
still chose to rebel. So like knowing God, it doesn't obfuscate the free will at all anyway.
Yeah. I. Yeah, I agree. And so basically, yeah, that's sort of.
So someone asked a
What I'm,
question. Well, if we created a world, oh, are you from Discord? Hey, buddy, I think you are. Well, if we created a world that evil couldn't exist, then what would we be?
we'd be humans that can only do good things.
Yeah, good things and then less good things.
Mm-hmm. Good
Yeah,
things. Yeah, yeah. It's like I can't sexually assault anyone, but I can give you a bunch of flowers or a little bit of flowers, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Yeah. So, all right. So yeah,
I don't.
I'm.
Yeah, how about what if we just round out this conversation? I don't know if we should go to the veganism thing, because that could go forever. Maybe we could do this
Mhm.
again and we could talk veganism.
Sure.
But my issues with my statement that I said vegans need to eat their own dogs. Um,
Yeah.
look, man, let me preface that, okay? Because it's obviously just saying some spicy things, but because like I'm kind of in the same club, right? Kind of. I'm vegetarian. You probably think I'm worse than a vegan,
Hmm.
but than a meat eater. Yeah. But if we could round this out, like, could you give like a closing statement to why you think that? So could you like conclude with like what you think we've talked about, and like why you think why you think I'm wrong and where I don't meet the mark, like a closing statement?
Hmm. Yeah. Basically, so I believe in moralism because I think it is a well-developed view that can account for all of the sort of data that we need to account for, and I think most other anti-realist view or all, I guess, anti-realist views, if I'm going to be totally committed to realism, um, don't do as well. And a big example of this is when I was trying to get a way to cash out epistemic justification, um, which seemed to be a little tough. I seem to have a very clear explanation of epistemic justification. It seems to make sense with all of our deliberative practices, and everything. And yeah. And then basically, I don't see any good argument against realism. Like, I don't think disagreement works because
Mhm.
we disagree about the argument from disagreement. Philosophers disagree about shit all the time. There is objective answers there. And then secondly, the best explanation for why people disagree is only going to be the anti-realist um, argument, or the anti-realist explanation, if we have other reasons to believe in anti-realism. Because if
Yeah.
moral realism is true, then the moral realist explanation is the best one for disagreement. Oh, well, people just we're shitty at determining those things. We're not that great at philosophy,
Yeah.
and everything. And we're biased. We've got evolution that clouds our judgment, all that sort of stuff. And that's going to be the best explanation if realism is true. But the best explanation is going to be that there's no fact of the matter if we've got other good arguments for anti-realism. I have yet to see any good arguments for anti-realism. I don't think we can't point to it in the real world works, because you run into epistemic issues, and also you can't really point to like logical principles. Like, where do you point to
Mm.
modus ponens in the world? Um, Various
Modus
sorts of
ponens.
modus ponens. It's just the principle of like P implies Q, P conclusion
Oh,
Q. It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
if my name's Pake, then my name starts with P. My name is Pake, my name starts with P. Modus ponens is the logical structure. We can't exactly point to logical structures in the world, but they still exist. So
what do you? Well, what? Sorry, I'll let you finish.
yeah, basically, not good argument against realism. I don't know how you're going to account for epistemic justification. Yeah, that's basically it.
Well, thank you so much for having this conversation. Like I said, the conversation was because I'm trying to like ground out my moral positions, and I just have thoughts on. I'm not a. You recommended a book. This book, links in the description.
Yes. Yeah, the Fundamentals of Ethics. That's a good one.
It goes through essentially every not every, but every like major moral theory, I guess, and talks about like the pros and cons, what they mean, like it steelmans them essentially, and then at the end talks about like the problems with it and stuff like that. For me, I read you told me it was cringe that I was a moral anti-realist when we first met, and then told me to read this. So I read this, and it actually drove me harder into my position. But I'm on my second read because I'm trying to get a big juicy brain like yours, so I can understand the perspective. The other thing I wanted to mention, like it's great having a conversation, but the other thing I wanted to ask you is, have you heard of Ask Yourself?
Yeah.
What do you think of? Because he's a real strong moral subjectness, and he's had a lot of debates with TJump about it. What do you think? Have you heard any of his arguments?
Well, I know recently.
If not, that's okay.
I think that crowd has been going on about how they think it's like incoherent, like stance-independent reasons are just not coherent things at all. And you can see it sort of displayed in this debate between this guy Lance Bush and this other guy Eric Strawson, something. If you look up Lance Bush versus Eric, it'll probably come up. And basically, yeah, I don't know how much I would get anywhere actually talking to a lot of the crowd, so I haven't. But then, yeah, basically they just think it's totally incoherent. I think it seems coherent, and the seemingly like argument, or not, I don't know if it's like the rhetorical strategy for showing that it's not coherent, I think is basically just like asking to describe it in different ways. Like it's just like, oh, well, I don't understand what you mean by like sense independent reason. I don't know what you mean by should or like ought. Like you gotta use another word or whatever. And it's just kind of saying that a lot. And but I don't think that's a very good test for sort of incoherency, because I think you could do that for a lot of things. Like take modal language, right? If we're gonna be modal or not modal realist. Modal realist is a really weird David Lewis view where he thinks all possible worlds exist. But if we believe that possibilities exist, right? And imagine I was like, I totally don't get what you mean by possibility. And you're like, oh, well, it's something that could happen. Yeah, but what do you mean by could happen? I don't get that either. It's like, it might. What does might mean? It's like all I can do is give you more modal language.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem that's a very convincing argument against why, possibilities are things that exist. And so likewise, I'm not super convinced on it being a good test. And I'm also pretty convinced that philosophers, especially anti-realists, aren't just like bumbling idiots who have been working with incoherent concepts like for years and like decades and decades. I feel like the anti-realists seem to get what we're talking about a lot of time, like Joyce, Olson, Harman, etc. And yeah, so basically I would like to see an argument that it's incoherent. It seems coherent to me, and I think I'm justified in believing that. But yeah, so that's sort of my statement.
Okay. Last thing I want to quickly just touch on again is if people want to hear the original conversation I had with TJump, go over to youtube.com/deepdrinks. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we are doing a charity stream. So go over there and subscribe if you want to help support the channel. We're going to be doing a charity stream, trying to get some money for charity. Still trying to work out what charities that we want to donate to. So if you got any recommendations, let me know. Deep Drinks is also on all podcasting apps. So if you want to listen to things, feel free to go do that. And also, I wanted to bring up this that you sent me, the 2020 Phil Paper survey.
Oh.
And I can't find it in here, but you mentioned somewhere on here that is it in the main survey results?
Yeah, main survey results. What was I talking about again?
It was whether or not. So this is a study of like 1,000 or almost 1,000 philosophers,
Mm-hmm.
and it was about moral, like it was about whether or not they're moral anti-realists or moral realists, right?
Oh yeah,
And you
this
said
is
it was
like a survey on everything. So just like Control F, and then just look up realist, and then it should no, go down, or just like yeah, hit the thing right
gender.
there.
Moral
There.
ethics, moral realism, or anti-realism.
Yeah.
Cool. So these are philosophy. These are PhDs, right?
All PhDs.
All PhDs, and 62% of them lean towards moral realism.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty interesting. And 26% lean towards moral anti-realism, which is kind of the camp that I'm currently in. Well, I'm still learning though. And then accept an alternative view. The question is too unclear to answer. It's pretty interesting to see, because I thought like the objectionist idea of morality was like a theistic only argument, and that no one really accepted it outside.
Oh yeah,
of
you can look up
Islam.
atheism here as well, and look at that. Yeah. So vast majority atheist and moral realist.
Wow, that's so interesting. So a link to this will be in the description, but it's
Mhm.
interesting to see how these philosophers think about this. And how many people were there? Almost 1,000, you were saying.
Mhm.
It says probably at the
Or
top.
1,700. It depends on the question. Some answer different. Like that's 1,700, 1,600. And you can also index it for like region and what they study. So you can like index it for like what do meta-ethicists think about moral realism. And funnily enough, if you look at veganism, vegans and vegetarians combined, if we're combined, we beat the meat eaters. And even more so if we oh wait, do we? No, wait, we lose. Wait, 36. Yeah. Damn it, where we barely lose to the meat eaters. But if you index it for ethicists, we win.
Yeah, baby.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe so, and I take it that you have some serious problems with my perspective on veganism.
I mean, I don't know if I'd say like serious. Well, yeah, no,
I'm trying to give
definitely.
people some ammunition to tune in next time.
All
You know,
right,
like
yeah, I'm
it's
coming
gonna
at
be a
you hard.
bloodbath. It's gonna be
No, but,
it's gonna be a tofu bath.
yeah, I definitely don't think it's the case that that it is the logical extension of veganism to eat your dog. On really any of like, I don't think that like deontologists have a good way out of that. I think, and consequentialists do as well, and possibly virtue.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and virtue, yeah.
just to kind of touch on the dog eating comment, the argument was essentially that if you make the argument that if vegans make the argument that we have to do what we can to reduce animal suffering. So, for example, not eating cheese, because cheese has like an indirect form of suffering. So you're taking milk from an animal, but for that milk that the taking of the milk might actually not be necessarily painful, probably is in factory farming, but the process of impregnating the cow is essentially rape. The process of removing the calf is a negative thing. The process, like, you know, there's all these other processes that are like tangential to the drinking of the milk. So if you're going to make the argument that it's immoral then to have that milk, I think it's there's a difference in scale, but it's the same as a vegan ordering a vegan cheesecake because of the rodents that are killed in crop deaths and things like that. There is a difference in scale, 100%, of course, hugely different scale, but there is no reason for you to eat that vegan cheesecake. So I would say that if you want to be for a vegan to be morally consistent and says no, we must eat nothing that gives us taste pleasure, outside of if it adds to animal suffering, then by not eating your dog, by burying it in the backyard, or not eating, let's say it was legal to eat your dog. This is in a hypothetical world. Or if you had like a pet cow and it died, not eating that cow would then mean that you would need to, buy more veggie burgers, which would add to more, animals being killed on the road for the trucks to deliver the veggie burgers, for crop deaths, when it would add more waste to the world, which adds to climate change, which destroys habitats and stuff. So I would say it would be more moral to eat that cow or to eat that dog than it would be if you were to use the arguments that those vegans make. Oh, geez. And I imagine you disagree, right?
Yeah.
So let's discuss that next time.
All right, I just sent you 2 papers. One's gonna be whoops, one of them's processing still. All right, yeah, I sent you one on crop deaths. It's something called the Doctrine of Double Effect. And I'm gonna send you another on freeganism and like eating the
crop death thing, right? Like I'm imagining it's gonna say, well, like crop deaths, but then like meat eaters, kill more crop deaths, right? Because they, the plants that we grow in crops get fed to, of course, yeah, sure.
Well, that's not what it's going for in the paper.
Okay, all right, cool. All right. I'm not going to try and debunk these without reading them, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for having me on. If you want to learn more about moral realism, Taking Morality Seriously by David Enoch is a great book. Ethical Intuitions by Michael Huemer is a good book. And The Normative Web by Terence Cuneo is also a good book. And if you message me on Discord, I can send you 2 of them for free.
Yeah, cool. Well, I guess I'll put your links. If you give us any links, I'll put them in the description of this video. I'll put the links to this paper, as well as the books that we've discussed, as well as Digital Hammurabi's book in the description, because I mentioned that. So if you guys want to check those things out, it'll be there later today. But besides that, I'll see everyone later. And thanks, Parquet, for coming on. And join us next time for another conversation on philosophy, where I find out how stupid I really am.
No. Okay. You did fine.
No, I'm just kidding. All right. See you guys. Bye.
All right. Take care.